Welcome to our Energy Connect studio at ADIPEC 2022. I'm delighted to have sitting next to me Jory Schwach, CEO of Andium. Thank you for coming by.
Yeah, thank you.
And I hear this is your first ADIPEC.
This is our first ADIPEC, yeah.
Can you tell me a bit more about Andium?
Yeah, Andium specifically focuses on continuous monitoring used to basically take a concept that's been around for a long time about sending personnel location to location to deal with challenges and trying to transition the model using technology to an operate by exception model.
Okay, so and obviously, as you said, technology is the key behind all this.
That's correct.
So more sites, especially those with issues like age or require, updated technology that can enable continuous visibility. How are you helping with that? With what you just pointed out.
Yeah. So the hardest part in most facilities is that they look different. No facility looks the same. So it's very difficult to put technology in normally because when you take an approach that relies more on the equipment, you may not have all the same equipment. And so as there's purchasing of assets, some assets are gassy, some unit locations are not. So what the technology is doing is it's basically saying, listen, what if we take a unique approach to look at a holistic location view of the site, put some technology, sensors and cameras installed super quickly, and then all they do is start running machine learning and pulling actual information that you would normally get from equipment or that you would want to get from equipment out into a larger theater to your stakeholders all the way back at location. And then they can use that information to determine, do we actually need to go to the site? And if so, why are we going?
Okay. And how long have you been going?
Yeah, so we're about 8 years old. We've only been working in oil and gas for about 4 years.
Okay.
So it took us a good few years to build technology that was capable of dealing with industrial and high volume, which is actually surprisingly challenging. There's a lot of software companies out there, but doing hardware and software brings another layer of challenge.
Yeah, and obviously, a big thing, and I've heard ADIPEC is about, reducing methane emissions, but how, methane mitigation requires, low cost sourcing of leaks and collaboration. And again, how do you get involved or what's the technology there?
Yeah, it's a great question. So traditionally, cameras to see methane are very expensive. So there's been an approach that holistically says, let's use satellites because that way we can try to cover as much as possible. Okay. And then it moved on to drones or people with handhelds, which brought it down a little bit, but it didn't really address the challenge. So the way we felt it needed to. And actually, to mitigate methane, you have to see it. So you have to figure out what it's coming from, and then there's a whole standard called LDAR to build around this to leak detect. And what we were able to determine is that the markets around self-driving cars and smartphones had started to basically commoditize the sensors necessary to see methane. Okay. So what we did is we integrated them into our tool stack, and now all of our camera infrastructure that goes out into the field also can see methane. And so that brings out the advantage of being able to say, send in a real-time alert anytime you see methane on a location, and get someone out there to address it. And with it comes like an auditable image, right? So you can see, oh, look, it's my tank has a venting issue. Somebody left the thief hatch open, which actually turns out is also bad because now rain's gonna get in and spoil the oil, right? Wow. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, no, definitely. Obviously safety and security is so important for oil and gas sites out there. And what it sounds like there is you're offering a low-cost technology that's also simple for, as you said, something that was very expensive.
Yeah, exactly. The simplicity to an engineer or an operational manager or a superintendent or even leadership comes from the fact that they just need to see insights. It's really difficult for someone to say, I can get you brand new sets of data and then have to understand how that data actually works. So what Andium's view is that when you bring an auditable image and the information with it, and then an automatically generated report, and then notifications when it's happening, you can actually just have a holistic conversation with your team, and then you can set your team up to automatically be able to either ingest the data into their own infrastructure, like SCADA, if that's the way they like to do it, or they can actually run off of our dashboards, just on their own pane of glass, so to speak, and use that in order to tee up notifications for when to send people where. And that's actually reduced visits to locations that we put out our technology. Average reduction is about 85% reduction in site visits, which means the ROI is about 3 months. So it's very compelling.
Yeah. And at the moment, is this technology mainly in the States, or is it other parts of the world? And again, I assume looking to bring it to other parts of the world?
Yeah, you hit that on the head. We are very heavy in North America. We work with some of the largest oil companies in North America, like Oxy and BP. Yep. And now we're starting to grow our footprint overseas, doing a bit in South America, and this is our first ADIPEC, so we're really excited to talk with some of the larger players out here from ADNOC and even some of the smaller players. Honestly, one of my favorite things is that now that you've commoditized technology, it's pretty applicable across the board. You don't need a significantly large footprint in order to implement technology.
Yeah. And obviously the demand for and the pressure to meet net zero goals,
yes.
And that's what you're offering.
That's
so
right. That's right. The hardest thing to meet a net zero goal is benchmarking where you are and how to get to where things are going to go. And actually, the second hardest is because standards are going to change. It's very difficult to understand what technology you should put in to meet those standards. What's great about software and hardware is we actually just alter algorithms accordingly. For example, in the US, some states have a county-based process for different types of requirements. And what that yields is a very heavy human training process. Alternatively, using the technology, we just write some simple software, and every region, it knows the GPS coordinates of the devices, and it will run the software differently based on the location.
It's been really interesting to hear more about what you're doing, and I think you're going to have a busy few years ahead.
Thank you.
And yeah, just really appreciate you coming down to the ADIPEC studio.
Oh, thank you.